Okay. Good morning, everyone. I declare the council meeting CL24/3 open and welcome everyone here. I shall open with usual karakia. Whakatau mai te wārua, whakawātea mai te hinanaro, whakarite mai te tinana, kia ea ai ngā mahi. Ai. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and the consequences of that. I have an apology for lateness from Councillor Henry. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Sol, Councillor Murray-Benge. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. There is a late item we need to address later, and that is around the appointment of an electoral officer. So can I call for a mover and seconder that we deal with that later in the meeting? Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Granger. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Call for any declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any today, please? No? Okay, thank you. There are no public excluded items, and I'm not aware of anyone for a public forum. So we'll move on to item 9.1, which is the minutes of the Kadikadi board meeting on the 7th of February. To receive those, call for a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Joyce, I'll second those. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. 9.2, minutes of the Amokurua Community Board meeting on the 13th of February. Mover and second for those, please. Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Murray-Benge. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Item 9.3 on page 28, minutes of the Te Puke Community Board meeting on the 15th of February. Mover and seconder for those, please. Councillor Wickers, Councillor Daly. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. 9.4, minutes of the Makatu Community Board meeting on the 20th of February. Call for mover and seconder for those, please. Deputy Mayor Scrimger, Councillor Coxhead. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the Waihi Beach Community Board meeting on the 26th of February. Councillor Sol, I'll second those. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. And now on to the council and committee meetings for minutes for confirmation. So minutes of the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting on the 15th of February. I'll move those. Seconded Councillor Murray-Benge. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Minutes of council meeting on the 22nd of February. I'll move those. Deputy Mayor Scrimger. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the Project and Monitoring Committee on the 27th of February. Councillor Thwaites, Councillor Sol. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee on the 27th of February. Councillor Granger, Councillor Coxhead. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So, moving on to the reports proper. Item 11.1 on page 98, which is the Tourism Bay of Plenty half-yearly report to the 31st December 23 and the Statement of Intent. So we have Rachel. That was unfortunate timing, Rachel.
Thank you, Worship. So this is the Tourism Bay of Plenty Statement of Intent. So this is for the forthcoming 3 years. So the report I will take as read. Happy to answer any questions, and Jodie will be here imminently.
Okay, are there any questions for staff on this one? Councillor Murray-Benge.
So I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Okay, thank you. I did have one question about the development of local tourism opportunities in Makatu and Waihi Beach. Was not obvious to me in the statement of intent. I just wonder if that was sort of caught under another heading, or whether it's needs to be whether it could have been more explicit.
I think we delayed that a year, didn't we?
Okay, sorry.
Your worship, that is probably a question best directed to Jodie, because I know there have been discussions as far as council is concerned in relation to those particular place-based projects or investments and the requirement for additional funding. But I suspect that Jodie is best placed to answer that question. And as I said, I'm hoping that she will be here very, very shortly.
Okay, well, maybe we'll take that offline and just check with her that that's the, it's in there included. I assume it is. I just wanted to make sure it was explicit. Yeah, okay. So with that, if there's no further questions on those 5 recommendations, could I have a mover and seconder for those, please? Councillor Murray-Benge, you indicated you'd like to do that. Would anyone like to second that, please? Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, any debate? As Jodie just walks in the door. Jodie, so I'll explain. So my question was, in the statement of intent for TBOP, I didn't notice any explicit mention of the request we made for local tourism opportunities in Makatu and Waihi Beach. And maybe I missed it, but if we can have assurance that that is actually in there.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that has been removed from the statement of intent because in year 1 of the LTP, you have made the decision not to fund that work. So that will then be brought back to you through the next statement of intent, which will be adopted from the 2025 year, and then it will be in that year. So that has been removed because of the decision that elected members made not to fund that work.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's helpful. So it's been moved by Councillor Murray-Benge, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, and you're about to say something, I think, Councillor Murray-Benge.
Yes, and I regret that we don't have it in the system, but controlling the rate debate was really most important, and to have Tourism Bay of Plenty prepared to look at both ends of our district, it's really quite vital. So we know it can be done, and so I look forward to it for next year. So.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So moving on to item 11.2 on page 141, which is the CoLab draft statement of intent and half-yearly report.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah.
So the purpose of this report is to provide Council with the updated statement of intent for 2024 to 2027, as well as the half-yearly results for CoLab. The 6 months to December were in a favourable position in comparison to budget, and this was mainly due to timing of expenditure and invoicing. They're tracking on budget towards the end of the year. In relation to the statement of intent, this is outlining their 3-year strategy. Their key performance indicators are outlined on page 5 of attachment 2 for your reference. Comments are sought from councillors, which in turn will be passed through to CoLab.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions regarding that statement of intent or the half-yearly report? Councillor Murray-Benge.
Page 152, I notice Right People, Right Place project has the potential to deliver significant savings to councils by improving staff retention. Could you elaborate on that, Sarah?
I'm not in a position probably to comment on that KPI.
Right.
Adele, you want to comment?
Through the chair. So CoLab do have a number of initiatives that they invite the various councils to come forward and be involved with as they see fit. And this particular project is, as you pointed out, Councillor, is one that we could potentially see some savings, but also benefits for our retention of staff, and we get involved as and when required. So this is outlining what the project's going to be and what the opportunities are.
So it begs the question, at which stage do we become concerned with loss of experienced staff?
I'm not sure that's the right question to ask at this particular juncture. It's that might be more of an Audit, Risk and Finance Committee meeting, so
I'll refer to it then, sir.
great, okay, thank you. So if there's no further questions on the CoLab item, can I call for a mover and seconder for those recommendations, please? Councillor Granger. Oh, you've got a question?
I just wonder, before we move them, do we strike out number 5? There being no comments.
I think that would be eminently sensible, Councillor Granger. Thank you for that. So I'm looking for a mover and seconder for recommendations 1 to 4, which I would take from Councillor Granger, and I see that Councillor Murray Benge is happy to second. If there's any debate? No? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So now we move on to item 11.3 on page 176. And I'll draw your attention to the late item which has been uploaded to Stella, which is the updated position on the Tanners Point Residents and Ratepayers Association. I was wondering if we've got Peter to lead us on this one. Okay, I understand there's some external presenters coming for this, and they seem to have been delayed, so we might change the order on this.
Can we bring up
So I'm being advised that we should bring up the LGFA report. Sarah's at the front to this point. So Councillor Thwaites move that. I'll second that. All those in favour to move the order, say aye. Against? Carried. Sarah.
Hello
So,
again.
if we're on item 11.4, page 207, LGFA draft statement of intent.
So the purpose of this report is to provide elected members with an opportunity to provide comment on the draft statement of intent for the LGFA for 2024 to 2027. Attachment 2 is an accompanying cover letter which has the key highlights in relation to this draft statement of intent. Happy to take any comments.
Councillor Wickers.
Yeah, good morning. Just a question, and I'm not sure if you could answer this, but in the number 4, our values, second column where customer focused, it notes that our customers are council borrowers, investors, and all other organisations that we deal with. Just an explanation of what other organisations LGFA funds. Is that known?
Adele.
Through the chair, so the Local Government Funding Agency supplies funds for all councils across New Zealand. They've just recently also included some CCOs as well.
So that would be what they mean by all other organisations would just be CCOs?
Yes.
Thank you.
Potentially also the Crown as a shareholder. Because it's not. It says all the other organisations we deal with, rather than as rather just customers. So,
Yeah, but it's in the customer focus section.
okay, fair enough. Okay. Any further questions for on that. Councillor Murray Bench.
I noticed on page 212, effective management of loans. I just wondered if there was any problems with the loan system. How many councils are actually struggling with that? We will ensure the loan book remains at a high standard by ensuring it understands each participating borrower, financial position and managing assets with an appropriate risk management framework to ensure shareholder value is not compromised.
Adele.
Through the chair. So the reason why councils have covenants with LGFA is to make sure that they don't have any issues in their repayment schedules. That's why they have a limit of 300% debt to revenue, which will ensure that they can appropriately fund and receive those funds and not put the other councils at risk, because we're all shareholders of LGFA.
Has anybody ever put us at risk?
Not to my knowledge. At the end of the day, we've got the ability to rate for any cost recoveries, and we consult on the projects that we're doing before we do them.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I wasn't criticising us. I was wondering if there was a council dragging us down.
No, I suspect if that were the case, you'd see it in the newspapers. But
So this doesn't take into account the extra Crown funding that can go to something like outside of a rate bill from Crown to ratepayer. It doesn't include that. Okay. TCC do it.
sorry, can you repeat that, please, Councillor Murray Bench?
I was just saying, I think Tauranga City actually have got that system in place.
Through the chair, I think it's in reference to the new infrastructure funding, the IFF.
Okay. Councillor Coxhead.
How is compliance with the covenants monitored, and how frequently is it analysed?
Through the chair, so that's done on an annual basis.
Councillor Murray Bench.
On 214, we meet reduction targets outlined in our carbon reduction management plan. Is our council under pressure on the carbon management at all?
I'm not sure
I know
that's
in
now.
certain sections of the community, most unreasonable requirements are being made. Are the requirements for us unreasonable or not?
I'm not sure that's a question for looking at the LGFA accounts.
Well, it's in here, sir. Page 214, performance targets.
Well, they say carbon zero certification maintained. That's their target. If Adele wants to comment on that, no. Okay. Okay. So if there's no, Councillor Daly.
Adele, in light of the fact that we're likely to be transferring our water assets to a CCO, which will...
Councillor Daly, that's just speculation at this point. Let's not suggest that that's what's happening.
Well, it's sort of indicated in the document, I would have thought. I just noticed that Watercare are asking Auckland Council for increased debt headroom to $130 million because they need more money to finance their water assets. So I'm just wondering if this is a concern for us in relation to local government funding agency.
Through the chair, so there are a lot of discussions happening at the moment in relation to what may happen under Local Water's Done Well. Western Bay is one of the shareholders' councils that sit across the LGFA board, and so we've been working with them on what this might look like going forward. So no decisions have been made yet, and so this is still in discovery phase for everyone.
Okay, thank you. So with that, if there's no further questions, I'll call for a mover and seconder for those 4 recommendations, please. Councillor. Number 4. Same point again. Thank you, Councillor Granger. I was looking for that. So You'll move 1 to 3 then. Thank you. Councillor Joyce, you want a second? I'll put them, if there's any debate? No? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So I'm advised we'll deal with the BOPLAS item next. That ought not to have been in the information for receipts section, so we'll deal with it now. That is on page 649. So that's the Bev Plenty Local Authority Shared Services Draft Statement of Intent and Half-Yearly Report. So, Sarah, would you like to talk to us?
Sure. The purpose of this report is to provide elected members with an update of the half-yearly financial report for BOPLAS, as well as the Statement of Intent draft for 2024 to 2027. When we look to the half-yearly report, the highlight was they managed to secure some funding from MSD for crime prevention projects in the Bay. Because that revenue was unbudgeted, they then went and invested it into an interest-bearing account, which is why they've got a slight surplus for the 6 months ended December. Also attached is the Statement of Intent. Once again, we invite you to provide any comment. The performance targets are outlined in point 11 of attachment 2.
Question from me, Sarah, was could you please summarise any new initiatives of BOPLAS? There didn't seem to be much other than BAU in this SOI.
I'll talk to that as a director of BOPLAS. There are no new initiatives that are being proposed. I would suggest that they continue to be singularly focused on procurement.
Thank you, John. That's helpful. Are there any further questions on that item? Councillor Sull.
Yes, sir, and I'm glad it was brought up. It was the crime prevention one. So just can you explain a little there to me? That they say that there's been work done on this through a consultant, and you mentioned that it was invested and there's a little bit of a surplus. Where are we with this? Is this funding going to be contestable? What's happening with that? And where is it sitting?
There is a contestable fund, and I have received the process for applying for that fund through one of my colleagues at Whakatane Council. I'd need to go and refresh myself about that process and let you know, Councillor. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there is a contestable fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Joyce.
Councillor Sol beat me to it, really.
Any further questions on this one? No? Okay. So I note there are 5 recommendations, and I think the 5th one is redundant. Looking at Councillor Granger here. Can I have a mover and seconder for those 4 recommendations, please? Councillor Sull, Deputy Mayor Scrimger. Is there any debate? No? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Okay. We're jumping around a little bit here, but anyway, next item that should be dealt with is the because of the members of staff present right now, we'll move to item 11.6, which is on page 226, which is the adoption of the speed management plan. Let's give you a moment to get to the right page. Good morning. Cheryl and Callum, would you like to introduce this one, please?
I don't think it needs any introduction, so it's been quite a long time in the making, so I guess this is the end of the journey, and it's really just a case now of hopefully adopting the speed management plan and revoking the bylaw. So if I can take the report as read and go straight to questions, it's
there is just one outstanding matter that we need some direction on, and that's just clarification of the permanent speed limit around schools outside of the variable speed limit times, whether or not that's 60 or 80.
Yeah. I will also just mention that I'd like to highlight that on page 591, I think it is, that the Hoya Road needs to say 60 kilometres per hour from the railway to the existing 50 kilometre an hour section. The implication in attachments 2 and 3 is that it's 60 kph the whole way, which is not what is intended. It's right. It's clear in one place, but not in a couple of other spots. So if we can just clarify that in the editorial or editing, that would be helpful. So, as was mentioned, the main item we need to decide today is whether a permanent speed limit for rural schools, when the variable speed limit is not operating, whether that should be 60 or 80. Are there any questions around that item? Or indeed anything else in the report, but that's the main thing we're deciding today. Councillor Murray Benge.
I thought it's wonderful that we've got this bylaw coming in, and I'm very supportive of it. But I wondered, as I went through the submissions and then the recommendations, there seemed to be from 60 to 80, Snodgrass Road to Poona Road seemed to come in at 80 too soon, and I just wondered the justification of it. And as for the rural ones, 80 k's per hour, unless the load speed one, past Kaimai School, if we can get to 80 k's, they'd be delighted. And it's a problem area, and it's got passing lanes on both sides.
So that's not really a question, but I think the point with Kaimai School, it's on a state highway, so I don't think that's not something we can address at this point. So
oh, pity.
Yes, well, indeed.
Because State Highway 36 is Pies Par School. They've right on that roadside as well. Could I ask what speed limit passed there?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. This is state highway, so it's not something that we've looked at.
Okay. Well, so look, we're not going to talk about state highways now, and we're not going to start introducing new limits. We're here to adopt the plan with this one question that remains outstanding. Okay.
Well, I certainly am supportive of it, and it'll be really nice when we tell NZTA what they need to do outside schools. I'm quite in favour of that, and the fact that it's NZTA is no reason why they should be beyond the laws that we put in place for other schools.
Well, we do not put laws in place. Councillor Coxhead.
Just a question, how many schools are we talking about?
Do you mean schools on state highways?
No, the ones we're talking about with the speed limit plan going either 60 or 80.
Oh, for the rural schools?
Yeah.
Not sure off the top of my head.
I believe it's in the paper.
No, I don't know either off the top of my head, sorry. We did consult with every single school, but it really only affects the rural schools, obviously, but the number of rural schools versus number of urban schools, I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head.
To come back to that point around justification of where we've landed, I think it's just remember the process that we've kind of gone through. Our starting point was the safe and appropriate speeds that were set by Waka Kotahi under the previous government. We've gone down the track of wanting to reflect our kind of local characteristics and our local community feedback and setting these speeds. So that's basically the justification that we've used to get to this point.
Okay. And Councillor Wickers next.
So perhaps to give context to that, there's 23 schools in the Bay of Plenty district area. 4 of them are town schools in Te Puke. How many in Karikari in town? Two. In any other town schools?
Spring's already got a reduced
Yeah.
speed limit, it doesn't apply.
So out of the 23 minus that number gives you the rural numbers.
Thank you, councillor Wickers.
And my question was around, just in regard to, if we do this blanket 60 or 80 Ks, there may be situations obviously where something different to that could apply. With the revoking of the bylaw, what opportunity in the future to tweak that, the length of time before that comes around?
So the previous government, I guess, required that the speed management plan be reviewed every 3 years. I don't know if the current government is going to continue to require that, but ultimately that would be the opportunity to undertake further reviews, would be to, in 3 years' time, review the speed management plan again and then introduce additional amendments if you wanted. Very minor amendments can be dealt with just by writing to Waka Katai and asking them to amend the national speed limit register.
So if we did a blanket rule and then something came out of the woodwork, there's potential for it to be adjusted relatively easily. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I would take Rangiora Business Park as being the best example. You know, at the moment, you've got rural roads, which at some point will become high volume, low speed industrial roads. So you would expect to implement a speed limit change on those roads. And I guess the way that we would approach that is not to amend the speed management plan, but to, with council approval, write to Waka Kotahi and then just ask them to change the speed limit in the national speed limit register.
Okay, councillor Daly.
Callum, we had quite a few submissions about Wilson Road South, but you decided to leave that as it was.
So that's what the mayor's alluding to, I think, with regards to the railway, the speed limit starting.
I know that's Pahoya Road.
I guess we didn't decide to leave speed limits the way it is. Project Monitoring Committee decided to leave.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Strategy and Policy Committee decided to leave.
Yeah, my apologies, I was unable to attend that workshop, but just in regards to the marae, there's a statement there that council will work with the iwi and hapu on a case-by-case basis, so that indicates that nothing's been set in stone in regards to the areas outside the marae.
No, but again, we would expect to come back to council with any further changes proposed for council to adopt them. You know, we wouldn't consult with Marais and then just unilaterally implement new speed limits. We would come back to council and seek council approval beforehand.
So that'll be the same situation as with the rural schools, but I know I brought up, or the young fellow from the Ponkawa school brought up wanting to reduce the speed limit, but after John Scrimge's suggestion, I went and had a drive around there and it would be
So, councillor Daly, we're on questions here. I think there's a debate that we're going to have very shortly about what the limits are going to be outside schools when it's not being variable. So, councillor Thwaites.
Yeah, I'm ready to move recommendations 1 to 8, 4.1, 60 kilometres per hour. For clarification of that point that we've been
Okay, I think we've got perhaps one more question and then, or a couple more questions, and then we'll get to that. So, councillor Sol.
So as I understand it, the process will be in some ways simpler to make minor or modifications in the future via this new process, etc. Because one of the other areas that I actually hadn't thought about until last night was sports grounds, etc. like that, whether that perhaps we're there on roadsides that children run around, do all sorts of crazy things, jumping in and out of cars maybe needs to be covered as well. So my question is the system simpler to work with amendments?
Well, I mean, to amend the speed limit, all we need to do is write to Wakakotai and get them to amend the speed limit register. So ultimately, if you find, you know, after a year that there's areas where you would want to undertake minor amendments to permanent speed limits, then we can contact Wakakotai and do that. Ultimately, the best way to do it would be to wait, wait for 3 years and then do another review of the speed management plan and yes, do a bulk change of any amendments that you wanted rather than doing them piecemeal.
Thank you, Callum. I think I would be uncomfortable writing to Wakakotai with a speed limit change unless we had gone out for some sort of consultation, unless it was a really trivial change. But I think obviously we haven't gone out for consultation on sports grounds, so I think we can't address that now. That's a good point, Councillor Thwaites. They tend to be in town anyway. Councillor Granger, you had a question?
Yes, I was just looking at the maps on Mokoro and with adjustments. So as the Mokoro gets urbanised further out, does it automatically become 50 without further application to Wakakotai to move the speed limit sign? Or alternatively, should we just say that roadworks are already starting along there, nobody's going to be speeding at 80k along any of a Mokoro road for a long while or ever again because of the roadworks that are about to start with a roundabout or two roundabouts and what have you, and Prole Road is being sorted out. So, should we just bite the bullet now and sort it out, or will it just automatically become 50k at some point without further messing around?
I admire your optimism that no one's going to be speeding, Councillor Granger, but I'll let Callum answer that and we'll
I guess new roads coming onto the network, they would have speed limits applied in accordance with the speed management plan. So a new subdivision road, say in Mokoroa, that would automatically become a 50 kph.
Talking about a Mokoroa road.
Yeah, in terms of a Mokoroa road, dropping it from say 80 to 50, that's something that we would probably come back to the council with because it's a significant change. It's an arterial road and there's a significant impact to the community there from dropping it from 80 to 50. So that's something that we would bring back to council.
Okay, so without further questions, I have indicated that an indication from Councillor Thwaites that he would like to move those recommendations 1 to 8, choosing 4.1, which is the 60 kilometres an hour past the schools when they're not on a variable speed limit. Councillor Mowbridge, are you seconding that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Councillor Thwaites, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I would, because I guess my motivation for this is largely by the Wakamarama community up there. They've grappled with 100 Ks outside their school. During the deliberations we had earlier, we had discussions that a lot of activities do take place after school traditional hours of 8:30 to 3:30 with after school meetings and the rest of it. And the reality is police are not going to go up there and police this, really. It's really going to go down to the conscience of the people who live beyond it, and all their neighbours' children are going to be at that school. So if the placement of a 60k sign means that they might just consider slowing down a little bit past the school, given that the variable speed signs will be operating at other times anyway, I think it's a good thing, and I don't believe it's going to impede their travel time getting to Tauranga one iota, given the issues down on the main road when they hit down there. So I fully support 60Ks, and the others I do, at the risk of getting the wrath of the Minister of Local Government and Transport for daring to drop speed limits in our area. I know we're going to be probably in the gun, but this is a good thing given the growth of our area, and I think it's sensible and it's very safety oriented.
Thank you, Councillor Thwaites. Councillor Mowbridge.
I think that this report is really important because it gives control back to our ratepayers, and it's not some bureaucracy in Wellington deciding what the speed limit should be. So we are in control again, and I think that's a good thing. The reduction in speed outside schools, in rural schools, I think they're entitled to safety as much as anybody else. Any urban school, we haven't resolved the ones that are on the state highways, but that will work on it as well. But I think that to have this where we are in control again is really worthwhile. As for the minister, he can look at the speeds on state highways, but when it comes, and I've always believed that that should be at least 100 Ks on state highways, and the only reason that the previous government reduced the speeds was because they didn't want to upgrade them, and they've left us with 1970 sort of roads on our state highways. So that's changing, and I'm just very pleased to have this recommendation before us, and I fully support it.
Thank you, Councillor Murray-Bench. Councillor Wickers.
Can I move an amendment?
You sure can.
For the sake of a debate, I'd like to move that option 2. How's that process work?
Well, you need to find a seconder
Yep,
for...
so I'd move, for the purpose of debate, the 80 Ks outside our rural schools.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Joyce. Okay, would you like to speak to that, Councillor Wickers?
Yeah, this goes back to the blanket rule, but I understand that, you know, Whakamaramara, I don't know their situation, but I'm guessing most of the rural schools out our way are probably 80K would be more appropriate. The Pongakawa, they're naturally constrained in speed by 2 S-bends either side of the school. So I'm just throwing it out there really to get some discussion in regard to the appropriateness of a blanket at a lower speed.
Thank you. Councillor, did you want to speak, Councillor Joyce?
I'm concerned with the debate when we say we'll put in place 60 Ks, but we don't expect people to follow it. You know, the police won't police it. We don't expect people to follow it. So let's just do it anyway. I don't think that's good governance. You know, you shouldn't be encouraging people to break the law, basically by saying we'll put the speed limit in place, but actually it doesn't really matter. So you know, if there's a case on a school by school basis for this, then I think we're happy to do that. But you know, we know people won't follow 60K outside rural schools. They just won't. We've already been told that. So you know, putting in place a speed limit that we know won't be followed, I don't believe is good practice. I've told the same thing to Whakakatāi, NZTA, on the 80 Ks between Karikari and Tauranga. You know, we know those of us that live out there, no one follows it, apart from once in a blue moon. I tend to follow it, and I get a trail of people behind my van and people passing on double yellow lines. Encouraging people to break the law by putting in place rules that we know they won't follow, to me, is not good governance practice. And it'd be better to say if a particular school has a particular need, then do that.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Councillor Thwaites.
Yeah, I'm prepared to speak now and not speak any further. I believe that was complete nonsense. We're not encouraging people to break the law at all. We're appealing to their common sense to do it. I was just from a sheer practical point of view, the police can't be everywhere. We've got a whole lot of other issues going on. We're certainly not encouraging people to break the law by putting a 60K speed limit. We're actually appealing to the vast majority of sensible people to actually just slow down, enjoy the day for a couple of seconds longer and just go on. So I totally reject any notion that we're encouraging people to break the law. We're not. We're appealing to their common sense to slow down. The speed limits on the state highways are what they are, but people still go flying past them. We know that. It's just the reality of the world.
Are there further speakers on the amendment? Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Yeah. I've been sitting here listening and trying to decide which option I wanted to support, but I'm going to speak against the amendment on the basis of the example Councillor Thwaites used at Whakamarama. I believe in the Te Puke area, probably the most affected school by this decision either way is probably Tauranga School. And those of us that have been around this table for more than about 5 years well remember the issue that was raised there. And since there has been some greater signage up in that area, there has been considerably less concern about the speed of traffic moving past the school. And so that supports the argument of Councillor Thwaites that most people are responsible and respond to signage. And no matter what speed limit is put in place, there will always be individuals who choose to ignore and break those rules for their own pleasure or haste or whatever. And so, yes, I'm speaking against the amendment.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour. Councillor Daly.
Yeah, like John, I'm sitting here trying to decide which way to go. I was quite happy with the arguments put forward by both sides, to be honest. And going back to the Pongakawa School example, I actually drove out there and attempted to exceed 80 kilometres an hour coming from both directions and wasn't able to. However, I think the 60 kilometres per hour limit does send a message, and we've been asked for it a number of times from different schools. So, yeah, I guess I'm glad, Andy, that you brought the debate forward so we could have this further discussion. And like it's a bit like the Te Puna Station Road, I could go either way, but anyway, I'll go with 60. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Councillor Murray Benge and then Councillor Coxhead.
I'm opposed to the amendment. I believe that most people, the great majority of people, care about the children that go to our schools, and in the urban area, we don't have the police watching over the pedestrian crossing or the crossings, and the schools will work in with our council traffic management plan and have signs up, and children can be waving to give safe spaces. It's not for any great length of time, but for those children who go to school at a certain time of the day when the parents are dropping them off, it's really important.
Sorry, Councillor Murray Benge, this is not
So,
about the during the pick-up and drop-off. This is else other times.
Yeah, well, whatever. I just feel that it's during certain times, it is times that it should be the 60. So I'm opposed to the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Murray Benge. Councillor Coxhead.
I support the proposed amendment by Councillor Wickers. I think it's just common sense. We need to be pragmatic about this. No one's talking about speeding at 80 k's when children are being dropped off during school hours, etc. It's about common sense here. And I think common sense dictates that people will drive to the conditions, irrespective of breaking the law, whatever you want to call it. But I think 80 k's is practical, like on a Sunday or a Saturday night, or there's no traffic around, people are sensible and nobody wants to hit a child. I think we all understand that limiting things and controlling everything isn't necessarily the way to go here. I believe that 80 k's makes sense outside school hours, so I do support the recommended amendment.
The speakers, Councillor Granger.
It's curious that Councillor Thwaites has selected Wakamarama School as a place to, as an example for the 60k pastoral school. It already is. The signs are there now. So the issues that need to have been addressed have been addressed in the past. And I think I'm siding with the won't have another blanket rule. So I think I shall support it. Councillor Wickers.
Thank you. This one is a tough one. I acknowledge the views around the table, but I also am aware of the pretty clear government direction on this and the statements they've made around blanket speeds outside of school pick-up and drop-off times. So at this point, I'm minded to go for the amendment from Councillor Wickers of 80 Ks. Are there any other speakers for or against the amendment? No? Okay. So in which case, do you want to write a reply?
Appreciate.
Councillor Wickers
Appreciate,
moved it.
yeah.
He has a right to reply.
Appreciate the debate. It was, I thought it was worthwhile discussing this. I do support the non-blanket rule, and we have the opportunity to address it on a case-by-case basis, of which we already have done in the past. So I will be supporting the option 2 of 80 Ks.
Okay, so thank you. So with that, we'll put the motion for the 80 kilometre hour. Put the amendment, yes, that's right. Put the amendment for the 80 kilometres per hour. So all those in favour, please say aye. Or let's raise your hands because it's going to be close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 6. 6 in favour. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's carried. So that now becomes the substantive motion with recommendations 1 through to 8, with recommendation 4 being 4-2. Okay, so we now move back to the main debate with Councillor Thwaites and Councillor Murray Benge having already spoken. I then had lined up Councillor Coxhead to speak next on this. No? Okay. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour? You've said your bit. Okay. Councillor Soul?
Thank you, sir. Basically, yeah, that's a great one. Speed limits, roads, etc. And as a pretty quick guy over the years, never paid much attention to them. And now, of course, being such a good law-abiding person, in fact, I would challenge that I would be probably the only person in this room that passes stationary school buses at 20 kilometres an hour. I might be wrong.
No, you're not.
Right, I have a friend. And I do that because I know it's important, it's a law, etc. So I look forward to seeing how these limits work. I do believe that if you do put up signs, there is a chance. I guess it's putting the culpability on the driver to actually obey them. I do not believe that they are going to have any great compliance or enforcement with them. But I would like to show that as a council we are trying, and it's looking positive to me in that sense. So, sir, I basically support what's before us now, and look forward to seeing how it really goes in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Joyce.
So looking at what's before us, I think we've done a good job at answering people's concerns. You know, we had requests from Fairview Estate just out of Katikati some time ago. We said we'd address this when we did the speed management plan. We've addressed this. Matakana Island, you know, at the consultation over there, we clearly heard from the community. Murray was there, I was there, and council officers as well, that they were worried about speeds on the island, and we're addressing that. I think this is a good way of doing it to address immediate concerns. I like this process better than the old process because it sounds like it was pretty horrendous, amending the bylaw, and so this is an improved process. The one concern I still have is that why do we need a national speed limit register? You know, why do we have to now send these to Wellington for a stamp? And I just think, you know, why is somebody in Wellington, are they really going to turn around and go, no, actually we think Matakana Island should be not 60k? I mean, it was just bureaucracy. It's bureaucracy that is unnecessary. It's out of our control, but I would suggest that we should perhaps pick that up, you know, in an LGNZ remit or some such, to say, you know, local roads should be under the control of the local communities through their local council. I don't see any reason for somebody to be employed in Wellington sitting there stamping these things, particularly as part of the goal here is to make them more flexible. You know, with the marae we're saying we'll deal with it case by case. Rural schools can be dealt with case by case. So, every time we want to change something, okay, we don't have to go through a bylaw process, which is a good thing, but we do still have to go cap in hand to Wellington to a bureaucrat and say, oh, actually, we think this stretch of 100 metres should be a different speed limit. I mean, that's just nonsense. And I would ask that we follow that up, at an appropriate time.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Councillor Daly.
Yes, I support these recommendations. I did do quite an intensive personal study of speed limits in the district and talked to quite a few residents in areas that expressed concerns, and I think by and large we've ended up in a pretty good place. There are some outstanding issues potentially that the community will still ask us about and maybe ask for a bit more change. I do like the idea that there is still a little bit of flexibility, and I think the fact that we've got away from the previous government's blanket direction to Waka Kotahi with a bit more common sense approach is a much better place to be, even though it would be, some people think it's a good idea to impose very strict speed limits to reduce safety. It always comes down to the individual driving the vehicle, and we all need to take personal responsibility for how we operate our vehicles and drive to the conditions. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Are there any other speakers? You'll get your right to reply at the end, because you've already spoken to this one. So I'll just say a quick, sorry? You get a right to reply, yeah. So I'll just say I think we've landed in a good place. I think we've done the best we can in a changing environment from central government. The rules have been changed on us. I think we've been nimble enough to adapt to those, while also hopefully listening to the community from their submissions, and they clearly were not in favour of blanket speed reductions in rural areas, and we've listened to that. So I'll be voting in favour. So no further speakers apart from Councillor Thwaites' right to reply.
Overall, great response, great work from the staff. This is a great result. Just one small thing that bugged me in the debate. Whakamarama is not already at 60k, so using a false information in the debate was unfortunate, and it won't be 60k, it's going to become 80 as per this law. So to claim it was already 60 is incorrect. But anyway, I do support the rest.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And with that, I shall put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you. And it's 10:30, so I think we'll break for morning tea, and we're back at 10:45. Thank you. Okay, so we're back to item 11.3 on page 176, which is the proposal to enter into a license to occupy for Tahawai Reserve and the Ngāti Te Wai Kauri Nursery. So Peter, would you like to kick us off with this one, please?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so you may recall, it's quite a while ago, Council originally agreed to enter into, in principle, to enter into a licence to occupy subject to the required public consultation under the Reserves Act. And then after that process, Council then ended up purchasing the adjoining property next to Tahawai Reserve, that's 16 Tanners Point Road, which I guess changed the context a little bit, and also the need for the concept plan that we're looking at now, because there's additional land to look into the concept plan side of it. So when we went out to public consultation, one of the submitters came back and said that, you know, it would be good to wait until the concept plan was completed before making a decision on the licence to occupy. And in principle, that sounded a fair and reasonable suggestion. So we did delay that, but now the concept plan is being worked through by Jason Crummer and his team. And at a recent hui up at the Karikari on the 20th of February, the issue was raised about, well, how everyone was kind of relatively supportive of the nursery, even though concept plan process hasn't been completed. And because of the timing of the concept plan being completed, which would be October, November later this year, it would mean that the group who were wanting to do the nursery would lose funding opportunities due to grants, etc., expiring. So there was a general, I guess, approval in principle from the group at that meeting that just get on with it and please put it before the councillors to make a decision and give some direction on. And hence, that's what the report is today. One of the original things raised by the Tanners Point Ratepayers Association was there's an easy access way down through the old railway corridor because it's just flat and easy. And so we've looked at alternative access up and around there, because if any future concept plan is likely to take people up into the reserve where the occupation used to be, and from there you would go up and over down below, as I've shown in some of the appendices and the routes available for an alternative access way. So that's where we've at. We've got a couple of submitters here today who wish to be heard, but I think they're a husband and wife combo, so one will speak they'll speak together. They've agreed for that. You'll find out who wears the pants. Yeah. So I'll invite them to speak shortly, if that's right, Mr. Chairman, to their submissions. But I did want to note, councillors all should have received an email that came through from the new chairperson or chair of the secretary of the Tanners Point Ratepayers Association. They had a recent AGM, I think, last Friday, and they've got a new committee in place, and they've responded that they are now in support of this proposal, whereas originally they had a submission that they had some concerns and were opposed. So I just wanted to be clear that they are now in support. So effectively we don't have any objections to the proposal through our public consultation process. So that's right. It's nothing further from me at this point in time. I'm happy to take questions, but the opportunity for the submitters to speak. There were several other submitters here who haven't turned up, unfortunately, who were going to speak in support, but who knows, there might be somewhere near Omokara at the moment.
Thank you, Peter. I think I'll invite Michael and Annika to speak, and then we can ask questions all together after that. So, Annika, Michael, take it away.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Annika Lane Ingoa. Thank you for letting us be here today. I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to hand over to my other half here. But first of all, I just wanted to acknowledge your loss and my condolences for losing Richard Crawford. We actually met Richard cycling on the Timber Trail a couple of years ago in the Puiora Forest and spent an evening with him talking about local government, as you do, in the middle of the bush. But we've kind of kept in contact with him ever since, so it was very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I'll hand over to Mike.
Kia ora koutou. Oh, I love coming to talk to you. It's really a great experience. I was on the committee at the time that there was a lot of raru going on about whether we supported or didn't support, and it got a bit toxic, to be honest. And as a result, the committee pretty much went into recess for quite a length of time. It was very excited to see, though, that just in the last 2 weeks, an AGM has been convened and a whole new committee, almost all new folk, all new residents in the area, have come on board. And I was even more excited when Peter showed me the email. They met on Friday, and they've now come through and are supporting this initiative. And for that, I'm grateful, because I don't want to be at odds with them. I just think reason has come through on that. So, look, so in that respect, I just want to make a couple of points that I put in our written submission and just reinforce them back to you. The establishment of a discrete native plant nursery on the reserve is a win-win-win-win. It's a win for Ngāti Tuwai to have access to a discrete portion of the reserve, to establish the nursery in partnership with Project Parori and Kaimai Kāori, and especially given their association with the recent purchase of the Te Poho site and the historic relationship with the native school. Look, these are reputable organisations, and we need to get together for the good of the community and the restoration of the environment. And we will work and continue to support building the relationship with Ngāti Tuwai and Tuapira Marae. It's a win for us as local residents. It's going to provide opportunities to support the nursery as volunteers and beneficiaries. There's a lot of goodwill in the community towards Ngāti Tuwai and the nursery is just one example of strengthening that relationship. You know, the conversations we have with the people we know and live with is, how can I volunteer? How can I help? How could I get involved to support this initiative? So that's a huge positive. Look, it's a win for the environment as a focal point for sourcing and raising local seeds and plants that will be returned to the local coastal margins and reserves. There's a strong local commitment to restoring the coastal margins and extending the pedestrian walking tracks, eliminating weeds and pests and promoting the flourishing bird life. So having the nursery there will be a win for the environment. And last but not least, it's a win for council, for you as council as an active partner and participant in the ecological restoration of the environment and in strengthening the relationship between the local community and Ngāti Tuwai. So that's really all I wanted to say. We're having a meeting talking through the concept plan for the wider reserve on the marae next Wednesday. And Sian has welcomed everyone to come up who are party to those discussions. And again, just to cement and develop those relationships. So on that note, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to and happy to answer any questions or comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions for Michael? Councillor? No? Or Peter? Is it? Okay.
No, it's just a question. I mean, I am no gardener. I can mow lawns at a pinch, without destroying them. But I mean, a nursery to me is, if perchance the concept plan went in a different direction than what we anticipate, and we needed to move the nursery with the goodwill of all involved, it's not actually that hard, is it? Because these are all small plants that are, a nursery is actually reasonably easy to relocate if we actually absolutely needed to.
Yes, that's quite correct. So basically, when you have a nursery, you'll have some small sheds that are locatable. You'll have some shade structures that can be, pulled down and relocated, and you'll have what we call a hard stand area, maybe with polythene in it, so weeds are managed, and the bags. Like, this isn't an open ground nursery where the trees are grown in the ground like the deciduous trees are, the native, and you can uplift and move that, and so it's not I guess where you're heading with that. This is not a permanent material effect on the reserve that would stay there forever and ever and a day like a building would.
If the concept plan went a different way, we could cope.
Correct.
Councillor Henry.
Just clarifying where we are, Mr. Mayor. Are we in question time now for general question with?
Ask your question. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is for you, Peter. Good morning, Peter. I'm, just to be clear, I'm fully in support of the project. And I spoke to Brodie Davies yesterday, and he was encouraging me to support the project because the more opportunities to have native trees growing in our rohe is, or as you have said, Michael, is a win-win. And so but what I'm about to say, I don't want anyone to misconstrue that I'm not for the project. But I am disappointed that I cannot see the questions, you know, the to and fro from the activity that's going to create having traffic coming to and fro from the property. And I also am particularly disappointed that I don't see this in relation to the whole concept of the development of Tahawai Reserve. And I realise that if we make a decision, I'm happy to agree with it, but I would like to see that be forthcoming if we can as soon as possible, Peter. And I'm talking about the strategic purchase we made and the dividing of that land and the protection of the caves underneath there and the foot cycleway. So, and the actual design of, you know, I see you've got some lines on pieces of paper, but it's not really clear to me exactly how the to and fro of all the users of that reserve are going to be, the movements of them, how they're going to be managed. And I'm happy to pass it today because I agree with it, but if we could have that to councillors to have a look at as soon as possible, would be great.
Peter, is there a timeline for that, or a plan going out for that?
Look, I guess that's through Matt Layton's team and Jason at running the concept plan process. There is a hui next Wednesday, the 10th of April, and look, to be honest, I'm not too sure if you have been invited to that. Yeah, so that will help answer a lot of those queries that you have, Councillor Henry. With regards to 16 Tanners Point Road and the land and the subdivision thereof, Council right now is considering the subdivision application for that land, and then once that is done, we can apply for get a consent and then apply for 2 to 3, 2 to 4, and give effect to that consent and get title. Then we can sell the balance of that land to help fund the initial purpose there. With regards to the comment about it, so that if you go to page 181 on your agenda, you'll see the little arrow-shaped bit of land there. That's quite a separate bit of land. It's down at a different level, and with regards to the access in and out of the reserve, that is being restricted to the current legal title being Tahawai. So if you look at on that aerial plan, you'll see Tanners Point Road, and between Tanners and the Point, you'll see the entranceway in there. That will be the entranceway into the reserve, and also coming in off there and then down into the nursery area. It won't be a separate area because we don't want to have any access near the actual highway area, and also that is NZTA land there, so it's kind of coming directly off the highway there. So that's been agreed with Ngāti Te Wai, and they're happy with that approach. I hope that clarifies some of the queries.
So I still hold with my other request. I'd like to see the whole, as soon as possible, the whole reserve in terms of its entirety, how it's going to work. But thank you. So I'm happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Councillor Murray Benj, then Councillor Sol.
Well, it makes a change from the protesters sitting on the site before Mike and Inika moved in. And I'm quite sure, sir, for Peter Watson, it must have been an absolute headache getting those squatters off. We just called for it, but you had to do it. And so grateful that you did, Peter. And now you're looking at this positive. Why the awkward shape of the plan, though? Could you just describe, and I see there are buildings on it, what are they?
Through Mr. Chairman, so the awkward shape of the land is with NZTA, where they've got that a big splay, and it's 100k area through there, and they've got a big splay, so potentially one day they could do road improvements here, like a small roundabout or something like that. But I've spoken to Becca, who were doing all the State 2 safety improvements, and said that that's not planned for any work at this point in time in the foreseeable future. In regards to the buildings on there, that was the squatter. That's just the timing of the aerial photo being taken in our GIS system. That was their occupation, correct?
Yeah, that's all gone now.
Not there, it's a clean site. Yeah.
sorry, I couldn't quite get where the entrance would be. Is that to the right of the top of the arrow?
Correct. So if you look at the words Tanner's Point,
Mhm.
and just below the P, you'll see the vehicle tracks going in there, which go up to the old hard courts. That is the entranceway into the property there.
So what's to the right?
Which,
There are buildings to the right of the entranceway. It sort of swoops down, and then you can see a number of buildings. Just there.
Oh, that's the house.
yeah,
That's the house itself.
right to the right,
Yes.
16 Tanners Point Road. That's council.
No, no, it's not.
No, that's the house, that's the house.
Is the house
Let me-
available for sale?
Yeah, that's the house itself.
No, no, that's the house there. Those were two old truck units, and that was the Gola shelter structure. Those are all gone. So it's a clean site.
Right.
Okay, I think trying to relitigate whose building was what from a few years ago when they were squatters is probably not very relevant right now. Okay.
So we need to ignore all of them.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Councillor Sol.
Thank you, sir. I've basically supported this the whole time and.
Just a question.
No, sir. I wish to actually move that we take recommendations 1, 2 and 3.
I think Councillor Henry's indicated she was going to move it, but if you want to second it, I would be happy to do that.
Thank you.
But before we go there, were there any further questions of Michael or Peter or Annika? No? Okay. So I've got recommendations, and I assume you're going to recommend 1, 2 and 3 and 5. 1, 2, 3 and 5, is that correct? Okay. And seconded by Councillor Sol. Would you like to speak to that motion, Councillor Henry? Or you already said that? Okay. Sure, okay. Are there any other speakers for this, for or against? Okay, Councillor Sol.
Yes, sir. I have actually been quite keen on this whole thing. I like to see organisations like this working. And in particular, I've got to compliment you on your submission. When I read these submissions, it was a really well put together, constructive, but objective submission. And I agree with you. There's wins, wins and wins here. And today it was really a relief because I was struggling as it last night when I went to bed with the local Ratepayers and Residents Association not being in agreement, and I was going to be asking where they were, and to get that email today puts the icing on the cake to me. So, sir, I just totally support this. I see it as being a real great way of seeing people and local people developing and moving forward within our communities and within our environment. And I hope that it's I guess, successful all the way, because like most things these days, a lot struggle for money to continue. I hope that that doesn't become a problem for this, because it's so important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sol. Councillor Joyce.
I mean, echoing a lot of what Alan just said, but I mean, I think the fact there's been so much interest shows how important this piece of land is to the local community, both to the local hapu, but also to the Tanners Point community. Yeah. My question was a genuine one. Yeah, this lease does not preclude change if needed in the future. In an ideal world, you would wait, as Peter said, for the concept plan, but we're not in an ideal world. We don't want to lose funding for this development. And if at the end of the day, everybody sort of said, well, actually, it might be slightly better, slightly that way or slightly that way, then that can be allowed for. So we're not committing anything that cannot be easily changed if need be in the future. So I don't really see, and I see all the submitters are pretty much in favour now. So there's no real reason to hold back to doing this. So I'm keen for it to go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Councillor Mowbench.
I slept well last night, so you'll be pleased to know. I didn't wake worrying about this because I think it's exciting. When I think of the agony that the community went through when the squatters were there and we couldn't get rid of them, and Peter Watson It's amazing that he's still sane, actually, because he was the one that had to clear the site, and it wasn't easy at all. And now that we've got Mike and Inika living there as well, and I know Heather Mills are very, very supportive of anything that was happening for Sean Kingi and the local community. So it's a win-win, and I think it's good news, and we can't see it happening fast enough.
Thank you, Councillor Murray Benge. Are there any more speakers for or against? No, in which case, unless Councillor Henry wishes to give her right of reply, which she'll do now.
So I'll start off with the negative first. I think that what you have said, Peter, is that there's been a lot of community talking around there behind the scenes, and it hasn't actually come onto this table, the plans and the things that you've been working with the community on. So that for me was where I was sat and was coming in today on that, and it would have been easier for me to come here and just be very, very positive, as I usually am. What I appreciate what's just been said before. This is another really very good example of the local community, the local iwi, and the environmental groups and the council working all together for a common goal that's going to better our rohe and where we live. So very, very, how could you not say going here? It's just so. And Peter, I'd also like to acknowledge you with the work that you've obviously been doing behind the scenes to help the community see and the council's perspective and where things are going, and it's obviously worked, so that's great. And also acknowledge the work that you did, and I know it took a long time, but we had a peaceful move from those people who were squatting on there. You managed that exceptionally well, and they moved without any police or anything, any intervention like that, and that was not easy. So thank you for that. I think I've said enough nice things to make it all better now. I'm happy to. So thank you very much.
Thanks, thank you, Councillor Henry. So with that, I'll put the motion. So that's recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 5. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in. See you on the 20th.
So we move on to item 11.5, which is on page 223, the recommendation report from the Katikati Community Board, Market Square. Now, there have been discussions before this, and I've serious concerns with the project and the paper before us. There's a lack of clarity about what exactly the project represents and how it's being funded, and a number of items. So it's my view, and John may wish to speak to this, that it comes back with a full IOP, gives a little bit more context and understanding of the project so that we can consider it properly, probably at the next meeting. And so my recommendation would be that this item lies on the table until staff can bring back such an IOP. Do you want to say anything on that, or? No. Okay, so if I'll move line on the table. Councillor Murray Benge, second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So moving on now to because we're already on the next item, 11.7, which is the Mayor's report to Council on page 647. I would just say at this point that my two-year mentee, Waru, was due to attend today and be introduced to you, but unfortunately he couldn't make it this morning. But just highlight that he is, you might see him around at future meeting, and just to see how local government works and to build up Māori capacity in leadership roles. So that was him, but we'll introduce him at a later date. Other than that, I think I'll take my report as read. And are there any questions that you have? No? Oh,
make a comment, if I may. I did enjoy the more detail that you put in there.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Henry. Yes. Okay, well, with that, I'll move receipt of that. Councillor Daly, you second it? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'll second it, but a question beforehand if I could.
Yeah, please go.
Just in terms of the constitutional changes likely to downsize currently large membership on Local Government New Zealand Board, do you want to make a bit of a quick comment about that for us?
Yeah, look, I'm not intimately involved in that, but at the moment you have, you've got the president and vice president, and you've got the zone chairs, and you've got rural, and you've got metros, and you've got regional, and it actually ends up being quite a large board, which is thought to be inefficient, and there might be ways to reduce that number. So it's just a large board that they want to get down to being a smaller board. But in terms of how exactly that happens, that's not my gig. Okay. So I've moved it. You want to have a second? Assume there's no more debate. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. And then we have the late item, supplementary report, appointment of electoral officer. Apparently have to change the order in which to do that. So I'll move that we move the order of business so that the supplementary report appointment of electoral officer is next. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Thwaites. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So this is the late agenda item, so I'll just give you a moment to change to that in your Stella. It's on a separate document, which is a 5-page document. Councillor Granger. Okay. It is. I think it's worth acknowledging that this has come about after the recent passing of Councillor Crawford and the necessity to bring this appointment forward because we have to run a by-election very soon. Okay. So there are 3 recommendations there. Appointment of the electoral officer, low significance, and appointing Warwick Lamp. Councillor Granger's moved it. Councillor Murray Benge seconding it. Are there any debates? No. In which case I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. And in which case we're now into the public excluded part. So can I have a mover and seconder to exclude the public, please? Councillor Henry, Councillor Sol. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We'll just give a moment to change the